You know, we've been talking all day about exactly how the investigations are going. How do you investigate some organizations that have operated in stealth for so long and that are spread out all over the world, in fact, all over our country? Carl Cameron has been following these groups and following the investigation of these groups by the U.S. government. Carl?
Hi, David. Well, and we are finding out virtually every hour that there were a growing number of signs available to the U.S. government and various allies around the world that an attack was imminent. This morning in the Cayman Islands, there are 3 Afghani nationals in custody on immigration charges. U.S. intelligence and U.S. counterintelligence and counterterrorist officials headed down there to investigate and to interrogate them. On August 29th, an anonymous letter was sent to a Cayman Islands radio station saying that these 3 Afghanis had entered the Cayman Islands illegally and had been having fairly open and public discussions about attacking the United States using airliners. On August 29th, that letter was sent to the radio station. On September 6th, that radio station forwarded the letter to the law enforcement authorities of the Cayman Islands. The letter was deemed to be something of a crank. No major steps taken, and of course now investigators on their way to the Cayman Islands to interrogate these 3 Afghanis. In addition, there are a number of investigators headed to Mexico. Investigators telling Fox News that they are looking for 9 men in Mexico believed to have given either structural planning or organizational assistance to the hijackers. And investigative sources telling us that they are led by a particular Islamic mullah who was brought before a grand jury in 1998 in the case of the bombings of the U.S. embassies in Tanzania and Kenya. This particular mullah, the Islamic priest, was brought before the grand jury and ultimately not charged. He is said, according to U.S. intelligence sources, to be leading a group of 9 men in Mexico, somewhere at large, and the subject of a manhunt in that country for allegedly having given some support to the hijackers. This process, David, is unfolding worldwide. There are people associated with Osama bin Laden and various different Islamic radical groups being taken into custody on a variety of charges in nations throughout Europe, throughout Asia, in Africa, in the islands, Cayman Islands, as we said earlier. The investigation fans out as part of the broad U.S. action meant to choke off whatever communications links there may be with Osama bin Laden and his various different associated terrorist cells. David?
Carl, you're our chief political correspondent. I mean, what specifically can the U.S. do to keep these folks out of the United States? As good as it is that we're tracking them down around the world, we want to keep them out of here. Is there a new immigration law that we need? How do we do it?
There's a whole number of steps that are being taken. There's discussions of how to clamp down on our borders, clamp down on immigration, a whole variety of increased steps that customs can take. Look for transit out of airports in this country to take a lot longer pretty soon. There's a variety of, there's legislation planned for sky marshals to have an armed law enforcement official on U.S. domestic flights as well as international flights. There is the appointment of a terrorist czar to act as a liaison between the CIA, which obviously operates overseas, and the FBI counterterrorism operations in this country domestic. All these steps being taken, but as a practical matter, it becomes a question of balance. Civil liberties, what we should do, and what we want to do, and what we value. If the American way of life is to be protected with all the liberties that we have grown accustomed to over the centuries, it is said by many that national security will remain risky at best, and that the nation needs to be prepared to make some sacrifices in terms of our daily conveniences in order to protect one another.
And I think we're ready to make those sacrifices. Carl Cameron, thanks very much.